When someone asks, what is yoga? What's the first thing that comes to mind? For a lot of people, it's physical postures, maybe some breathing exercises. But is that all it is? Or is it something much, much deeper? Today, we're going to explore how a practice like yoga fits into these huge concepts of religion and spirituality. And we're going to challenge a really common idea, the belief that you have to choose between them. Because what if that's just completely wrong?
So let's just dive right into that core conflict. It's the classic showdown, right? On one side you have religion. We tend to see it as structured, full of rules, institutions. And on the other side you have spirituality, which feels more personal, free, all about your own experience. And the conventional wisdom? It says they're opposites. But I have to ask, is that really the full picture? And this leads us to the big idea for today. What if we've been looking at this whole thing wrong? Just imagine for a second. What if religion is the map, a guide, carefully drawn by people who've already walked the path? And spirituality, or a practice like yoga, is the journey, the actual experience of exploring that territory for yourself. Seriously, that one little shift in perspective, well, it can change everything.
So here's how we're going to break this down. First, we'll really define what we mean by the map and the journey. Then we'll learn how to actually read the symbolic language of that map. After that, we'll get into the practical tools, the tech, if you will, that you need for the journey itself. And finally, we'll see how these two things, the map and the journey, come together to form one single, really powerful path.
All right, first up, a map and a journey. Let's really lay out this unifying framework. The whole point here is to see how these two concepts don't clash, but actually complete one another.
This right here is the key distinction. The map, which we can call exoteric religion, it gives us the why. It's the symbolic guide, the stories, the destination. It tells you what you're looking for. But the journey, that's the esoteric practice of yoga. It gives us the how. It's the direct, personal, inner experience of the territory that the map is describing.
Okay, so to really get the whole picture, we've got to start by decoding the map. This is what's called the exoteric framework. It's the outer, visible, public structure of religion.
Exoteric. It's a fancy word, but it just means the outer shell. The public face of a tradition. Its rituals, its laws, its institutions. But the key idea here is to see it not as a cage, but as a stable container. It's something designed to protect the really valuable stuff inside.
So, what is inside that container? This is where we make a huge shift. We're moving from the map to the actual territory, from that exoteric shell to the esoteric science, the inner journey itself.
So esoteric refers to that inner experiential dimension. This isn't about blind belief. It's actually described as a psychoenergetic science of inner transformation. And this right here is the classic mistake so many of us make. We spend our whole lives arguing about the design of the container without ever tasting the content that's actually inside.
Now, according to this inner science, our internal geography is pretty much universal. Deep down, at our center, there's a silent, peaceful core. But where do we live most of our lives? Out here, in the periphery, this chaotic, creative, buzzing energy called Shakti. This is the constant storm of our thoughts, our senses, our ego. And the central idea is that all our suffering, it comes from being trapped in this storm. Okay, so if this inner territory is real, how in the world do we navigate it? Well, this is where that outer map becomes absolutely essential. We just have to learn to read its symbolic code, which, believe it or not, is often hidden in plain sight, right inside mythology. This is a truly game-changing way to look at things. What if the great religious epics, the stories we've all heard, aren't just ancient history? What if they are actually precise, symbolic dramas that are mapping out the conflicts happening inside our own minds? Let's take the Hindu epic, the Ramayana, as a perfect example. The famous battle between the hero Rama and the 10-headed demon Ravana, it's not meant to be read as history, but as an inner allegory. Rama represents our silent, unified core, our true self. And Ravana, with his 10 heads, well, he represents our fragmented ego, constantly being pulled in 10 different directions by our 5 senses of perception and our 5 senses of action. It is a perfect metaphor for a distracted mind.
So how do we empower our inner Rama to overcome the chaos of our inner Ravana? Well, the journey from the periphery to the core requires specific tools. This is where spirituality becomes a kind of technology, a systematic process for traveling from the gross outer world to the subtle inner one.
And this technology, it works kind of like a funnel, guiding our awareness from the outside in.
It starts with gross, physical practices that engage our senses, then it moves to more subtle practices for the mind, and finally, it leads us to that silent core.
So the first tool is ritual. And this isn't about blind superstition. It's actually described as a form of psychophysical engineering. Think about it, using a sacred image to focus all your scattered senses on one single point. Or using a fire ceremony to symbolize burning away impurities. Even designing sacred architecture to create a literal field of peace around you. Each ritual is a practical tool designed to calm that chaotic periphery and repattern our awareness.
Now, once the senses are a bit more focused through ritual, we can move to an even more subtle tool, mantra. A mantra is basically a sonic formula, a specific vibration used to calm the chaotic energy of the mind. And whether you practice it out loud with other people or just silently to yourself, its purpose is always the same: to build a stable, vibrational bridge from the noisy periphery directly to your silent core.
And what's the ultimate tool in this sonic technology? The sound It's considered the primordial vibration, the sound that the universe itself makes. It's the frequency that takes you right to the very edge of silence.
But ultimately, all these tools, the rituals, the mantras, they're like a raft you use to cross a river. Once you get to the other shore, you leave the raft behind. The final destination isn't the tool itself, but the direct experience of profound stillness at your core. The journey ends when you can simply rest in that silent gap between your thoughts.
So let's bring it all back together now. We've got the outer map, we've got the inner journey. How do they unify to create a complete path that leads us back to our own center?
This slide just sums it all up perfectly. They are not in conflict. They are two parts of one single process. The religious map gives us the purpose, the why we're even on the path, and the what we're looking for. But the journey of yoga provides the practical methodology, the how to actually get there. You see, one without the other is incomplete.
And this brings us to the final and I think the most important question, one that's really for you to reflect on. It's so easy to spend a lifetime studying the map, debating all its little details, and defending its borders. But the real question is this: are you mistaking the map for the journey? Thank you for watching.